most successful people that I know that are like actually like cash value, most successful people have been
Mhm.
the biggest givers that I've ever seen. And it just amazes me. And I'm talking about sitting down, having dinner with them and hearing some of the cool things that they're super excited about that they're doing behind the scenes nobody even knows about, that are, it's all pure giving. It's purely how they're adding value and giving back to society one way or another. And
Mhm.
that's one of the biggest things, is like we should all strive for that.
Great experiences build great leaders. Great leaders build great teams. This is Building Great Sales Teams.
All right, guys, welcome back to Building Great Sales Teams. Something that complements sales, any way you look at it, is the follow-up game. It's part of the sales process, but too many companies are running far behind on this and are all about the initial lead coming in, trying to pitch them, closing them or not, and then they walk away, never to be heard from again. It's a huge problem, and that's why today I brought a special guest for you guys, Ely Delaney. He's an automated system specialist, aka the People Whisperer. His expertise is in being hired to help people create bulletproof and evergreen campaigns to convert more of their consisting clients into raving fans using his follow-up rockstar systems. Now, what I like about Eli here is it's not just about the CRM and the templated campaigns and the follow-up system. It's about how you communicate with people. Eli, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here, my friend. Love hanging out with you.
Awesome, man. So I was just recently on your show
Mhm.
and we were vibing on that show, chopping it up about all things sales, business, and meeting cool people, which is your podcast. And so if you guys haven't heard of that podcast yet, go check it out right now. There should be a link in the show notes. You guys can do that. In the meantime, let's talk about how to communicate with prospects and clients to make them feel like you actually care about them. Can you walk us through that? What that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, so much of sales is based around, like, people think. Let's say, I mean, you're the expert in saying that this is wrong way of thinking it. I know you'll agree with this. People think that sales is based around making the pitch all the time, and so many people miss the boat on. It's about having a good conversation, getting them to know, like, and trust you. You've heard that phrase a billion times, but it's
Mhm.
about how do you get people to realize, I'm here to solve a problem for you. I'm here to help you. I care about you, as opposed to, hey, let me treat you like my personal ATM, which is what so many people tend to do. And they miss the point of that. And it's all in moving away from the constant pitch to a point of, let me add some value. Let me touch base. Let's build a relationship here, because I know that if I do it right, when you're ready, whether that's today, tomorrow, next month, next year, or even 10 years down the road, which has happened for me, that then
Mhm.
you're going to be like, oh, wait a minute, I need to call Eli because I know he can help me.
It's so true what you're saying, especially when you get to the higher ticket sales, right? So we all
Mm-hmm.
know, there's entry level sales. They're very transactional. They're very low ticket. Maybe a service provider, something like that, or a one time sale of a product, right? But
Right.
when you get into the more high ticket sales, you've got to accept that sales cycle. It was something that I had to learn just 2 years ago, because most of my teams have been built on door to door sales, transactional sales,
Mm-hmm.
and very little follow up other than continuing to knock the door until somebody answers, right? And so moving to consulting, on average, my clients do business with me 8 months after they met me. Eight
Mm-hmm.
months. So,
Yeah.
and what's cool about that is, I've had the CRM since I started, so it's a constant follow up through the podcast. So that's a nice tool to be able to use. But what do you find in terms of, I don't know, follow up, that a lot of businesses are getting it wrong? What's that number one thing when they first come to you? You're like, all right, we got to fix this right away.
The number one thing is thinking that value is here's something cool on how you can use my stuff better. Because that's where most people come from. They think that they're adding value when all it is basically a veiled sales pitch. And
Mhm.
we've all gotten those emails. I mean, I'm a big email guy. So it's so funny because I get a lot of people that come that you hear this people talking about email marketing is dead. No, your emails aren't dead, or email marketing isn't dead. Your emails just suck. You need to
Yeah.
write better emails. You need to have better conversations. I have a client right now that literally just recently switched to using my methodology, my framework, and went from
Mhm.
about a 12% open rate to an average of 60% open rate. And all we did was change the conversation. And that's where it's about, instead of sounding like you're doing a sales pitch, always making everything a veiled conversation of here's the next thing to buy from me, coming in and just checking in. It's like you can write an email and it says, hey, you know what? It's been a while. I just want to check in and see how you're doing. What's up? What's new and exciting? And leave it at
Mhm.
that. Don't do a, by the way, I'm still here if you need me, because all of a sudden you lose it. All of a sudden it's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, he really did just reach out because he wanted to sell me something. But if you start with that, or one of my favorite things in the drill, I keep this book sitting right here. It's The Go Giver by Bob Berg. Highly recommend the book. I think everybody should read it. It's a short, tiny read. You can read it in like 3 hours. And Bob's a super awesome dude. But this, like a book like this, if you read books, or if you have tips, tricks, resources, things like that, like for me, this book, I'm always telling people, hey, it's a great book. I highly recommend you check it out. Bob's an awesome dude. He happens to be a dog guy, so of course I like him. And the whole thing is about how you come from a place of giving as opposed to receiving. Read the book, check it out, reach out to me, let me know what you think. That is purely adding value and starting a conversation.
Mhm.
There's no pitch there. I mean, if I send that as an email, yeah, I'm an Amazon affiliate, so if they do buy it, I'll make like 30 cents. I think Amazon sends me enough money to buy like one mocha every year, especially with the
Yeah.
price of coffee right now. I don't get anything out of that other than showing value. And if
Mhm.
you get enough things like that, don't you think, if you already know what I do, because I don't hide that, I'm still here and I'm
Yeah.
adding stuff about, hey, by the way, if you do need me, I'm here. Those are part of the conversation as well. But if you have that, the sales pitch is like an afterthought almost. It's like, hey, by the way, I got something cool. You should check it out. But if you spend a
Mhm.
lot of time adding value, doing books, tips, tricks, resources, coming from a place of adding value and having a conversation, when you do go to actually make a pitch for something, the walls are down. They're like, oh, okay, he's always sending me so many great things. I mean, it's so funny. I've had people say, and I do get a lot of emails from you and I just can't get to all of them. I'm like, that's okay. But here's my question for you. Have you ever, is it too many that you really want to unsubscribe? They're like, no, you always send really good stuff. Of course, I don't want to unsubscribe. I just can't get to it all. And I'm okay with that. But when I do have something for sale, people are paying attention. I have people right now that I'm on their list. I just delete 99% of their emails. If I happen to be really bored, I might actually read it before I
Right.
actually delete it. But usually I just delete it because I know, oh yeah, it's going to be another pitch. And that's where we just
Mhm.
change the conversation. And by the way, this isn't just email either. You can use this over text. You can do it over social, sending somebody a
Mhm.
message on LinkedIn or Facebook every once in a while, just saying, hey, you know what? It's been a while. I just saw this thing. I thought it was really cool. You should check it out. Maybe send them a TED talk that you saw on YouTube, things like that. When you change that conversation and then make it intentional, and that's where like my systems come into play. You make it intentional about doing this. That's
Yeah.
where you get people stick around for life.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And you see it consistently across different businesses, different influencers, like where we come from in Apex,
Mm-hmm.
you're taught to basically 1 out of 5 posts, 1 out of 6 posts should be about your business, not
Right.
every post or every other post, right? And even then, when it is about your business, it's very much giving value in your zone of genius, right?
Right.
And then you look at like Gary V, the book he wrote, Jab, Jab, Hook, right?
Mm-hmm.
So something for them, and then something for you.
Right.
And his obviously his cadence is a little higher than I would like right now. And so what do you feel like is a good cadence when you look at, all right, I'm going to send out 5 emails a month or 4 emails a month. Maybe one of those emails having a small product offering or a purchase in it, or is there a certain
Yeah.
cadence you like, or is
So
there a lot of variables that go into that?
yeah, so you don't have to be like Gary Vee and send out 552 pieces of content every single day. I mean, most of us in the real world can't keep up with that anyway.
Right.
I like to do roughly every 6 conversations is a pseudo real pitch and
Hmm.
some kind of real offer. The great thing is that in between, you're sharing value that they know what you do.
Yeah.
If you they came into your world, they know what you do. They know how you help your clients. You
Hmm.
don't have to remind them all the time, as long as you just stay top of mind. So I tend to do like a 6 to 1. I like
Yeah.
to send emails roughly weekly. And I say roughly because I like to use a term, what I call consistently inconsistent, meaning it's not every 7 days. It might be
Yeah.
5 days, it might be 10 days, it might be 8 days, it may be 9 days, it may be 4 days. Mix it up a lot.
Keep
It
them
might be in the
guessing.
morning, might be in the afternoon, might be even later in the evening. The key with this is that if you send an email at 8 a.m. every Monday, that's a newsletter.
Hmm.
Subconsciously, that's a newsletter in their head. Whether they realize it or not, their brain is catching that.
Hmm.
And so if you mix it up, that's another thing that you want to do with all your content, shift it up. Maybe you recommend a book, maybe you recommend a video that you saw on YouTube. Maybe you just throw a
Right.
quick tip in there. And then
Hmm.
every once in a while throughout the real basic, how you doing? What's up? What's new and exciting? Anybody who knows me for any kind of time frame has heard me say the phrase "what's new and exciting" at least once. And when you do that, you change. It's like it's a pattern interrupt. It's the conversation, different times, different modalities. You end up hitting different personality types, and it sounds more real. Now, the cool thing is we have awesome technology that's out there that allows us to set a lot of this up and let it be consistently inconsistent, feeling like it's real, even though it's an automation. But the great
Right.
thing about it is we're not hiding it. We're not lying about it. We just don't make it stupid obvious that this is a newsletter and you really don't care about them, because that's the wrong
Mhm.
way to do business. You want to make it about how do I add value first. And then when you do have an offer, it's the great thing about it is they're more likely to pay attention to it. And you're offered, again, doesn't have to be anything complicated. It doesn't have to even be a direct pitch. I mean, the 9 word email by Dean Jackson is a great example of it. You send them an email that says, "Hey, are you still interested in sales consulting?" I mean, that's simple. It's like, would you real still consistent or still interested in getting some sales training for your team? That
Mhm.
that's your email.
Yeah.
And that's your pitch, because the goal is not to get them to buy. The goal is to get them to respond, which leads to a conversation. Conversations lead to sales.
I love it. I love it. And it's interesting what you said about being consistently inconsistent makes it look and feel real.
Mhm.
Because I read a book by John Ruin called Giftology. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
ever read that before or not,
I haven't read
but
it, but I
he
have
talked,
heard that one. Mhm.
and kind of his strategy behind gift giving in terms of business development is very much random.
Yeah.
It's you don't do holidays, you don't do birthdays or anniversaries or work anniversaries. It's very much based on some type of arbitrary number,
Yeah.
that means nothing to the client and everything to you and the people executing those systems, and so we did this for our sales teams. And so I think at the time that we did this, we had about 40 salespeople, right? And so when they would first onboard at the company, we would have them fill out a web form that talked about their favorite color, their favorite products. If you had $200
Mhm.
right now, what would you buy? And you had to spend it on yourself. What would you buy? What are your favorite brands? What are your favorite foods? And so it was a lot of kind of discovering basically what great gifts would be to give them. And
Right.
then my VA team would then, based on when they made their first sale, that would start the system, right?
Mhm.
They would get a gift 7 days in, and then they would get a gift, like, I think it was, 7 weeks in, and then it
Mhm.
was, like, um, you know, um, 6 months or something like that, and so it wasn't really quarterly, it wasn't really, every 30
Right.
days, or it was just random, and we just set it up random that way, and it worked out really well because I would get texts and calls from my employees or my salespeople being like, "Hey, this was so thoughtful. Thank you for getting me this." Meanwhile, they
Right.
forgot that a year ago they filled out this form with all their favorite things. You know what I'm saying? And so
Oh
they're
yeah.
like, "How did he know?"
Yeah. Well, and
I'm
the
saying,
great thing about it is you're asking the questions up front, and their life is busy. They're not going to remember those things. They're going to move
yeah,
on, and other
yeah,
things are going on. And when you and a lot of times what it is when you fill it out, they're going to be like looking for something right away. So you give them something
yeah,
kind of basic as a, hey, welcome aboard,
yeah,
here's a card or something like that. But then down the road you get it, they're like, "Oh, now they're shocked," because again, with consistently and consistent,
mhm,
you want people to not expect the expected. And so
mhm,
they expect, like, if you're going to ask those kind of questions, they're expecting something very clear based on the answers to those questions right out of the gate.
mhm,
And if they get something but it's different, that's going to throw them off, and they'll be like, "Okay, that's cool." They're not going to think too much of it. But then down the road, when they get something cool, they're like, "Oh, that's awesome." And it makes more of an impression with people. It's like, I mean, if you got a CRM, which everybody listening to this needs to have a CRM, and I don't care what platform. I have the ones that I like, but I don't care what
mhm,
platform, whatever software you use, as long as you use it, it's a good platform. That's the key with it. But most CRM systems out there, you can do all kinds of stuff for notes. You can create tasks for yourself. You can have custom fields where you can put what are their favorite colors and are they a dog person and all that kind of thing. Those
mhm,
kind of things, if you reference those down the road, like even your follow-up system, even though you have an automated system with a whole bunch of text in place, if
yeah,
you could have emails and things like that that are 100% automated, but having a task for yourself to call them and just check in how your kids doing, what's, how's, if they're into football, it's like, how's football season going, things like
mhm,
that. All of a sudden they are shocked at how much you care about them.
mhm. No, I love it. And one of the things we did too is on that spreadsheet where everything was derived from, which was the responses to that
Mhm.
web form. Um, we had sections that we could add notes into. So if we
Right.
were at dinner with them one time and they really enjoyed the steak that they got at that restaurant we were at, I could go into my phone and put it as a note in there. And then when their
Yeah.
birthday did come up, I can get them a gift card to that restaurant. You
Right.
know what I mean? And then it's
Mhm.
like click. Oh, they have that memory with me, and they also remembered how much they enjoyed that steak. And so it's relationship building on a whole nother level. And listeners may say, well, that seems kind of like automated and systems based. But think about it. What's more intentional than setting up a system to invest in someone?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like, I'd
yeah,
rather
and
have
here's
that than someone have to, like, say in their head, "Oh, I need to remember to invest in Eli. I need to remember to continue
right.
to send him stuff or continue to send him a message here and there." Like,
Yeah.
that's not gonna happen. We're all human, you know?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is that, like, when automation first became a thing, like I was very early on in the automation game. Like I started
Mhm,
doing this stuff in 2008. And back then, when you use the word automation, people are like, "Oh no," because I want to be personalized. I want to that just takes away from the relationship. And it's like, no,
mhm,
if you do it right, it actually enhances it. And the idea is to automate what you can, delegate what you can, delete all the crap you can't do, which I call entrepreneur ADD, by the way. And
yeah,
the idea with it is it buys back your time to give you the ability to spend more time on the real relationships, which are conversations like you and I are having right now.
mhm,
And one of the things that I always push back on when people disagree with wanting to use automation and set this stuff up is you are human. You will drop the ball. You will screw it up. Let the
mhm,
machine do the heavy lifting and the reminding part. And it doesn't have to be 100%, off the plate of it
automated.
doing everything automated, but the
Yeah,
automation can basically ping you and say, "Hey, by the way, you need to go do this today,"
mhm,
because we're humans. Life
yeah,
happens, fires happen, life gets screwed up. We will forget. Put the system in place to help you make sure that things don't slip through the cracks, because I know people that I had conversations with, and they couldn't even remember the initial conversation because they had no follow-up in process, but I could go through and reference every little step across the way. I actually had people that that I tracked them, even meeting them at events. I would go into my CRM and put a note of when I met them, what the event was, what we talked about, all that kind of stuff. I could refresh information that there's no way my brain could keep all that stuff handy. And I
Right.
mean, I don't even remember what I had for lunch yesterday, let alone what I had a conversation with, 3 years ago. But I could pull that back and reference that conversation, and they're just like, oh wow, that is so cool. And it makes them feel important, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just use the tools that we have, which are, they're everywhere. Everybody listening to this probably already has something.
100%. Okay, so obviously you're experienced at this. You've been in business now for 30 years. You got clients that have been in business that long too that you've been
Mhm.
servicing.
Yeah.
You said that one client, basically you took them from 35K a month to over 110K a month because of the follow-up strategy. That's just one
Mhm.
example, right?
Yeah.
You've also had clients come back, not come back. Come back over 10 years later after seeing you speaking at an event. Can you walk us through what happened there and
Yeah.
tell us that story?
So I love sharing this one because this is my favorite one to date from the time frame, and it shows the
Hmm.
power of this stuff. It was September 16th, 2020, and I get a reply to one of my emails. And this guy
Hmm.
says, "Hey, Eli, I want to thank you so much for all the help you've been over the last few years. I've been on your list a couple of years now, and
Hmm.
you've done a lot to help my business. My son's starting a construction company. I'm wondering if you can help us with some marketing stuff." I was like, "Okay, cool." Starts a conversation. Conversations lead to sales, so we're all good with that. But I look in my CRM and I was like, "What does a couple of years mean?" And I go back and I find in the system, I see what happened. He had actually seen me speak in Scottsdale, Arizona at a SCORE event July 3rd, 2010. So 10
Wow.
years and 3 months later, he's coming back to refer his son's business to me purely because I added value and I stayed in touch the whole time.
Hmm.
And that's really powerful stuff. When you can do that and have people come back that much later and just know, like, everything in between pretty much was automated. There were a few things that I would send a text message every once in a while, things like that, but not many of them. But he came back a decade later to refer his son's business to me. That's powerful.
No, that's massive. And I love that story because a lot of people that are in your business haven't even been doing it for 10 years and you've been
Yeah.
proving it for 10 years, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I love that so much. Um, I think it is a big, I think what a lot of companies leave out too is the tasks, right?
Mhm.
And so the tasks are automated, but the actual execution of the task is not automated. And that's where
Right.
like this gets interesting for me because a lot of times, and I'm very much a designer
Yeah.
and a builder of the sales program, but a designer of the things that accent the sales program. So I do have a follow-up template that I go through with all of my clients, and it is
Mhm.
very much like, okay, they didn't set an appointment, they're contacting your CRM. They set an appointment, but you didn't close, or they're a client now, right?
Right.
And I go through roughly like 25 to 30 um actions that need to happen. First one's an email after 12 hours. It just depends on their product.
Right.
But one of the things that I mix in there that a lot of people leave out is those tasks. Because you can
Mhm.
assign tasks. And the tasks are a text, a phone call, an email that's not automated from the salesperson that they interacted with first that has the history there. And so you can mix it beautifully with manual tasks that give that personal touch. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? If
yeah.
you have the sales force to do so. And so I would encourage the listeners to 100% look into things like that. Now, if they need to dial in their message, if they need to understand how to communicate better in their follow up, where do they go with you to do that?
Easiest thing is to connect with Ely.com. And Eli is with a Y. So connect
Mhm.
with Ely.com. Go there. You can connect with me. I got some free stuff on there. You can find me in all the social media sites. There's even a spot right there. If this was an interesting conversation, you can book a call to chat with me. And I'm not a hardcore sales guy. I'm like, let's just have a good conversation. If I can help you, cool. If not, we're just going to have a good conversation, get to know each other. Because, like I said, it's above my head. I like to meet cool people anyway. But the biggest thing with all of this stuff is, like you just said, that follow up, the manual tasks on top of the automated stuff. Set your system
Mhm.
to say, hey, here's an email. And if they haven't responded back in 48 hours, a manual task says, just call them and say, did you get my email? That's it. You don't even have to do anything else, because when you start that conversation, again, the conversations lead to sales. It's that simple. But there's so many little things like that you can do that are super, super powerful. And, connect with Ely.com is the easiest way to get a hold of me. I love having cool conversations like this, and it's like brainstorming ideas of what's going to work best for you. I have a lot of fun with this stuff, if you can't tell.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing too, is like when you're first starting out as a consultant, you got to look at everything like a sales call. You just do.
Mm.
You got to fill the pipeline, you got to pay the bills, right? And I was very much in that space maybe 18 months ago. And now I do. I get to pick and choose who I work with because I have
Mhm.
a solid pipeline and I have people being referred to me. And then I have my current clients that are staying on for longer term contracts.
Right.
And so it really allows you to, one, you got to protect your time, right? Because you got to make sure you deliver for all those clients. But
Yep.
it allows you to, when you do make time for connections or connection calls, it allows you to give and give freely. And
Yeah.
and, and it's a beautiful thing, and people don't believe you at first, and then you jump on a call with them and you literally give them the documents that they need. All they have to do is swap out their logo or their
Mhm.
template or their system, their product, and they
Right.
can run with it. And then they're like, wow, you really just did want to give value. You know what I mean? Because I'm in the same group you're in, or I'm part of your network, or whatever the case is.
Right.
And it does. It's like people, you see some people rag on rich people, right? Because, oh, it's all about money. Well,
Right.
guess what they get to do with that money? They get to give it away and
Mhm.
impact thousands of people or millions of people, depending on how much they made. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so it's very much the same thing. The success in our business allows us to set up value deposits for people that really need it and that don't
Yeah.
have the funds to hire us just yet. And then what
Yeah.
happens? 10 years later, their son hires us.
Yeah.
Right?
And that, you brought up a really good point, that a lot of times people don't realize when somebody is successful and they've made the money, they're doing well, people don't realize how much they do behind the scenes. And I know, like, I've heard those conversations. I've even been part of those conversations about, well, greedy rich people and all that kind of BS.
Mhm,
The most successful people that I know that are like actually like cash value, most successful people, have been
mhm,
the biggest givers that I've ever seen. And it just amazes me. And I'm talking about sitting down, having dinner with them, and hearing some of the cool things that they're super excited about, that they're doing behind the scenes, nobody even knows about, it's all pure giving. It's purely how they're adding value and giving back to society one way or another. And
mhm.
that's one of the biggest things, is like, we should all strive for that. It's like, I want to
Yeah.
be able to, you want to make as much money as you can for the purpose of doing whatever you want with it, whether it's buying it. For me, I want to buy a castle. That's one thing I want. But I want to be able to give back. I want to be able to do things like
I
that.
love that.
And yes, I do want the castle. But, being able to, it could be as simple as going out with some friends and, just buying dinner, just wanting to buy dinner, just pay for it without even thinking
Yes.
about it. It's that
Yeah.
simple, you know? And when you have that capability, it's a totally different game, because you are more relaxed and you're more giving when you're
Mhm.
able to do that. And I think everybody should come from a place of that to begin with. And that's why, like, a lot of times when I'm talking to people or when I'm speaking on stage, I'm like, here, take this email and go run with it and see what happens. And I'll give them a structure. I mean, I have one email that I sent out. This guy, I gave it to this guy I was on a call with, and I talked to him like Thursday, I think. Monday, at the time, I was West Coast, he was East Coast. 8 a.m. my time. He sends me an
Mhm.
email. He says, I sent this email at 8 in the morning. I've already had 20 people reply. I'm like, awesome. To keep me updated. Let me know how it goes. By the end of
Yeah.
the week, he had actually launched a new $500 a month coaching program that didn't exist on Monday, and had his first client on it because of those calls. It wasn't even an idea on Monday when he sent that email, but it
Yeah.
started the conversations. And I think at the end, he had like 50 people who had responded to this one email with no pitch. And he ended up having all these great conversations, launched a new product, and got it out there and made his first sale, all within the same week, sending one email that I was like, hey, just take this, go try it, see what happens.
Mhm. I think we just found the title of the episode. Start conversations and meet cool people.
There we go. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Anything you
Awesome,
can do
brother.
to
What?
meet cool people is a good thing.
Absolutely. I got one last two-part question for you.
Okay.
What does legacy mean to you, and what legacy do you want to leave behind?
What does legacy mean for me? Legacy is, what are you going to be remembered by? And that's not necessarily, the money that you leave or any of that kind of stuff, but what is it that people, when they hear your name, what do they think about? For me, I have two things. I run by, I study Bushido, which is the code of the samurai. And out of the seven virtues of the Bushido, there's two of them that I live by, which is kindness and respect, or
Mhm.
compassion and respect are the two that I go by. And I want people to think of me as that more than anything else. I
Mhm.
show respect, I have great conversations, and I'm kind to people. To me, that's the number one thing when it comes to legacy for me, what that means. And that is the legacy that I want. I want people to think about that, oh, yeah, I should be kind to people today. I should show respect. I don't have to agree with somebody. I don't even have to like them, but show them some basic respect. I think it's something that we've lost a lot in today's society. And I think if we could get those two virtues back on the board and get people to start paying attention to it, the world would be a whole different place than it is right now.
I couldn't agree more. One of the things that I've been, I guess, sensitive to now are little signs that I'm associating myself, surrounding myself, doing work with, and working for the right people, right?
Yep.
And that code that you just brought up, one of
Mhm.
my clients that does car wraps out of California is also very versed in that code and lives by it as well.
Nice.
And then you brought up Go Giver. So
Mhm.
my first client ever was Brent Knott. I don't know if you ever met him when he was in Apex,
I know the
but
name. Yeah.
he was also in my RBO group, and he does car wraps.
Mhm.
And before he hired me, we had a strong relationship before that because of the RBO group. And he called me a go giver, and I'm like, "What's a go giver?" You know? And he said, "I'll send you a book." You
Yeah.
know, and so he sent me that book. This was like 2.5 years ago. And so
Oh,
just these
nice.
little dots connect, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
And so I know that I'm meeting cool people.
That is awesome. No, no, definitely. And they're both really cool things. I mean, Bob, the author of Go Giver, I actually read the
Mhm.
book. Probably I was introduced to the book about 10 years before I actually had the opportunity to meet him. And we never met in person, but we've had several conversations online. And I actually, my first podcast, I had him as a guest on it, and we got to be friends because of that. And it was super cool because it's such a powerful message, and then to
Mhm.
actually get to meet him and talk to him and really build that relationship with him. It's like, I always joke about the fact I have told so many people about this book. At some point he owes me like a commission check or something, because I've probably been responsible for 1,000 sales at least, and I'm happy to do so because it's such a massively good thing to do. And again, it's just add value, just do something kind for somebody today. That's all it is.
I couldn't agree more, brother. You guys heard it here. If this is something that you know that you need to improve, definitely connect with Ely.com. That's CONNECT with Ely.com. You can see it on the screen there. Reach out to this man, have a or start a conversation and meet a cool person in Ely and connect with him. Want to say I appreciate you so much for coming on the show, dropping all the value that you have already, and let's get building.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend.